Welcome to another episode of Conversations and Connections. We're the official podcast of the Family Crisis Center of East Texas. I'm Stuart Burson, the prevention coordinator for the agency. And probably this is the furthest we've ever been so far to on the road to do a podcast. We are in Sabine County, close to Hemp Hill. And with me today, I have Cynthia Ince. She is a LPC, a licensed professional counselor in this area. And with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, one of the things that I was wanting to do is visit some of our rural communities and talk to the people there about domestic violence in their area and their experience with it. Cynthia, first of all, thank you for being gracious enough and a good sport to let me come all the way over here.
Sure.
I can probably throw a rock and hit Louisiana.
Probably can.
So Cynthia, tell me a little bit, first of all, just about your background. You're an LPC. Some people may not know what an LPC is. I throw it around like everybody should know, and I guess I did. So a licensed professional counselor. What does that mean?
Oh, well, it means that I'm licensed to do therapy with families and individuals, and through the state of Texas. And I have a background in education, a lot of years working as a teacher. And I went back when my children were older and got my LPC.
Okay.
And I've been in business, I guess, since about 2013. I started doing counseling work, and I went away to Austin for a couple years and started working in private practice, and I enjoyed it. So I came back home to Sabine County and opened my own practice.
Nice. Okay. And I don't mind the shameless plug. We're actually at the Purple Pig Realty. That's your husband's
That's my
business.
husband's real estate.
And so do you practice out of here?
Yes, my office is inside this building.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Excellent. So, whenever I was setting this up, I was talking to Cindy about some of the things we were wanting to talk about, and again, I appreciate her letting me come all the way out here to talk to her. Cindy, I guess one of the first things I want to ask is, what type of situations do you see in your practice related to relationship violence? And we'll get into in rural communities, but I guess first of all, do you see a lot of clients that are in these situations?
Yes, I see a lot of clients that have this situation. It is a myth that it's just something that happens in the big city.
Right.
Research shows that it is just as prevalent in the country as it is in the cities.
Right.
So per population, per amount of a population. So it's a very common thing that happens. It is, many of the relationships start out with the abuser being a perfect type partner, and they kind of develop over a while, and they become very power hungry and abusive towards the person that they have married, and this causes a lot of problems in the marriage. They may attempt to try to control the money in the marriage. They may try to start telling their partner what they can wear, what they can't wear, who they can see and who they can't see. A lot of times they try to limit them from being around others. They want to control them as much as they can, and they try to their circle of friends becomes smaller and smaller.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of times when people think of domestic violence, it's not just the physical violence. And I like also that you mentioned the financial abuse, because I don't think a lot of people realize that. I know at the Family Crisis Center, sometimes we'll have victims come in, and they may have gotten married at a very early age, and they do not have any experience managing money, credit cards, a bank account, or anything like that, because it's always about that power and control that the perpetrator has over their victim.
That's right. It's a lot of power and control, and it's a thirst for power and control. And a lot of times the victim has grown up in the same type of environment, and sometimes they don't recognize it as being abusive.
Sure.
And a lot of times they've grown up without a voice. They may have had a mother that was very passive, and the mother catered to a man that was overly controlling. And if the woman tried to speak up or want to tell the dad about something, they were oftentimes hushed up. Because the mother did not want them to cause any problems and get the father angry. So they grew up learning that they had to try to keep peace and try not to speak up at a lot of different circumstances.
Right. So, I want to go back, you mentioned about it being a myth that things like this doesn't happen in rural areas. Do you find that people who live in rural communities feel that way with the attitude, oh, well, that kind of stuff doesn't happen in our community?
Oh, yeah. They feel a lot of shame and embarrassment about speaking up, and they worry about other people in the community finding out about it and their spouse's reputation being ruined. So a lot of times they won't speak up. It could hurt their livelihood, if their reputation became ruined, the abuser. So it's a very close-knit community, and a lot of people are relatives in the community.
Sure,
and
right.
So, someone at the police department may be a relative of your abuser, whoever
Right.
your abuser is, and so that keeps a lot of people silent. Yeah.
Well, and I think also, going back to the idea that a lot of people in the community think, well, this doesn't happen here. Everybody seems happy. Our theme this year as the Family Crisis Center is things aren't always as they seem. And I think a lot of times, you might have a couple that may be, lack for a better word, going through hell at home, but they're still going to present themselves out in public like everything's fine. And people, a lot of times that abuse isn't going to happen out in the open or out in public, and it's going to happen in private. And so, again, you're the one that's educated in this field, but I think a lot of times, people, oh well, everybody's happy around here. No, there's no visible evidence of domestic violence or any type of abuse, but you don't know what happens behind the scenes,
No, you sure don't.
at home.
And one thing you don't think about the rural areas is that there's a lot of hunters, and so 75% of the households have quite a bit of guns. In the cities, it's the statistics around 27%. So you add that threat to
Right.
the violence, and that's a very dangerous situation.
Sure. In your opinion, how important is it for kids and young adults to be educated on healthy relationships? And we were talking about this very thing before we started recording. And that's kind of telling you a little bit about what I do as a prevention coordinator, talking, going to the schools and talking to young people about healthy relationships. As an educated LPC, how important do you think that is to start at an early age to talk to kids about healthy friendships, not just romantic relationships?
I think it's so important. It's really integral to their development, and some of the characteristics of unhealthy relationships, or that both of the partners may feel like they're incomplete without the other person. And so that's why you see, like, when a couple breaks up, and maybe the abuser will start stalking. They feel like they just can't make it as an individual by themselves. They feel like they're not complete. And you'll see that in friendships growing up, where maybe the friend is jealous to have another friend come in. So you want someone that enjoys being with other people and doesn't just have just you for a friend.
Sure.
They have lots of friends. And you don't want someone that just relies on you totally for their happiness. You want somebody that can be happy on their own too.
Well, and I always tell, especially I guess starting at the teen years, that a healthy relationship, that doesn't mean you have to spend 24/7 together all the time. It's
That's
good
right.
for, hey, guy, have a guy's night out with your buddies. Ladies, have a girl's night
Yes.
out. That is good. You do not have to be joined at the hip and
That's right.
spend 24-hour days, 7 days a week with each other.
That's right. It actually enriches their relationship the more. different types of relationships. You're taking care of yourself by
Sure.
doing that kind of thing.
Excellent.
So, and then also you want to stay away from people that are relying on you for their self-esteem. They need to realize that it's their responsibility to be happy and their responsibility to work on their self-esteem. And you don't want someone that their world just completely revolves around you.
Sure.
You want there to be some togetherness, but you also want separateness in a relationship.
Right.
And also, it's very unhealthy if the person starts not trusting you and always doubting what you say. That's not a good relationship. And also, if they have an inability to communicate, or they can try to control the other person's decisions, and they make threats or manipulations to try to get them to do what they want. Also, they may say, if you try to address a problem with them, they'll gaslight you and say, well, what problem? I don't see a problem. You must be imagining that, and they just totally don't listen to what you're saying, and they don't address it. They try to wipe it away. And then also, they'll limit your boundaries. They will try to put boundaries on you, and they want you to not deny your needs to totally meet their needs. So, and then some of the healthy relationships, each partner is whole without the other. So if they have to be apart for a while, that's fine. They can handle that. They know how to be happy on their own. And they're responsible for their own self-esteem, and they communicate effectively, and they accept a person for who they are, and they want to see them grow and have other relationships and not just their relationships. They realize that the most important thing is that their partner takes care of themselves, has other relationships besides that person. An unhealthy relationship, they'll try to even limit your time with your family. They will not want you to be with your family.
Exactly. So, a statistic that we always talk about at the agency when we're talking to folks in the public is that it takes a victim an average of about 7 times leaving an abusive relationship before they leave for good. I'd like just to get your take on that. Why do you think that is?
I think that sounds very true from what I've seen, because I've had several clients that have taken about that many times.
Right.
And I think fear is a big thing. They're worried. That's when it gets really dangerous, when you start to try to leave.
Okay.
And also, a lot of people are worried about their child not having a father figure in the home, even though it's a negative father figure and probably not good for them to be around. They don't want them growing up without a father.
Right.
And so they'll try. They think they're not being a good mother unless they try to make the marriage work. And society tells us that. They say, try to make your marriage work. So.
Well, and I'm glad you're saying these, because I know a lot of times people who are not in the line of work that you're in, or that even what I'm in, well, if it's that bad, just leave. How come they're going back, or why don't they just leave? And
That's
I think
right.
people don't understand that for a lot of victims, it's not as simple as just packing up your stuff and leaving.
Right. They may not be trained in a job so they can support themselves. They may try to blame themselves and think, oh, if I hadn't done something, he wouldn't have gotten mad at me and hurt me. But it's never okay to hurt someone when you disagree with them.
Right.
But they tell themselves it was their fault. And they also, there's a cycle that they go through. They start, the abuser goes through what's called the honeymoon period, where they just kind of court the victim and give them lots of attention, be really sweet to them. And then after that, the tension builds in the relationship. And then there's the violent incident that happens. And after the violent incident happens, it goes back to the courting again. So right when the person may be thinking about leaving, the courtship starts again.
Right.
And so they're, oh, he's really improved. I'm going to stay around.
And I think sometimes for a victim, believe it or not, they may be abused and they may need to get the heck out of there. But I think sometimes they still maybe truly love their spouse still, and they
Right.
don't want to leave because of the love.
Right. And it's if you've been with someone for so long and you've lived life together, sometimes it's really, really hard not to have those deep feelings. So, and also the person they may have experienced all of these things when they were younger and seen their mother stick it through and
Right.
try not to leave.
Sure. Now, okay, so we're just on the outside of Hemphill in Sabine County, a very rural area. How do you think, or do you think it's harder for victims in rural areas to find the support they need? Whenever I was reaching out to try to find a counselor, it was kind of tough to find counselors in this area, in-person counselors who actually practice here. And I finally got connected with you. But is it hard for victims or survivors of domestic violence to find support in more rural areas?
I think it is.
Or help, or just even the community support, maybe.
Right, right. I think it really is because of the worry about rumors being passed around. If you try to go to get help, everyone knows everyone. A lot of people do know that there is a crisis center in Lufkin that they can go to, but a lot of people just are scared to reach out for help. They just don't want it known in a small community.
Sure. And I get it. And I think at least now, or I can ask you this, and I don't want you, if you may have an opinion of this, having at least online help, is that better than no help at all to talk to a counselor, even if it's online? Because whenever I was searching for counselors, I found a ton. It was all, online. But I'm sure some people would prefer the face-to-face conversation that they can have with a therapist in person.
Yes, it is. It's something that I started during COVID. I started doing online counseling, and I've found that it's been a lifesaver to a lot of people that would not have gotten counseling, and they were so isolated during COVID that they would have not got it. We closed down the office for a while, but they wouldn't have gotten the help otherwise. And so, video equipment is so good nowadays that you really do feel like you're with them. So, I think it does help them tremendously to seek out online counseling.
So now that, knock on wood about the pandemic maybe being behind us, are you still do you still offer online
Yes, I
counseling?
still do. And a lot of people like it better because, they can, it's so much more convenient for them.
Right.
And they don't have to, people in Houston, they don't have to go fight the traffic. So they'll search out online. I've got several clients in the Houston area.
Sure.
Right now, it's a good thing to prevent having to get out on the road and all that.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that we cover, or are you good with what we talked about?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to realize that there is help out there, and the Family Crisis Center will do anything they can for you, and they will help you get out of your situation. So I would reach out to the Family Crisis Center and try to come up with a plan for leaving.
All right. And that's one thing we do talk to people about, is encourage them to have a safety plan in place to know what to do if they do decide to leave. Because this is another thing, and you probably know this, one of the most dangerous times for a victim is immediately after they leave.
Right.
As far as their personal safety.
That's so true.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, Cynthia Ince, LPC here in Hemphill. Cynthia, go ahead and give yourself a plug. If someone wants to schedule maybe an appointment with you, if they have some issues they need to work out, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, I'm on the Psychology Today website.
And that's how I found you.
You can find me there. And also, my private line for my business is 936-305-7117.
And that Cynthia Ince is INCE.
That's correct.
All right. Cynthia, I really appreciate you taking some time and letting me come out and do this.
Thank you for coming out here.
If you feel like you need help from the Family Crisis Center, if you feel like you need our services, you can call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That number is 1-800-828-7233. And also be sure to subscribe to Conversations and Connections. You can do that via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or pretty much any podcast service of your choice. And remember, as always, be the voice, if not for you, for someone else.